What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. This is my betting breakdown video for UFC Vegas 63. We have Calvin Kattar going against Arnold Allen.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another betting breakdown video this week, breaking down UFC Vegas 63. We have an 11-fight card. I think from a fan perspective, this card is absolutely going to deliver. From a betting perspective, it's a sketchy card. A lot of these fights, very, very sketchy. I feel like you can make a case for pretty much every single underdog on this card, so it's a card where I'm definitely going to tread lightly. I do have 6 bets, 4 of them being plus money. We'll talk about all of those. We'll talk about some of the spots that stick out, but honestly, not a ton. I didn't have any bets up until like Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, which is really unusual. Typically, I'm getting bets in, Sunday, Monday, hopefully get them all in by Tuesday, but that is not a ton sticking out, but there are some spots sticking out. We'll talk about those. Before we get started, guys, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are not already. It's much appreciated as always, guys. And then also, I will be going live Saturday fight day, 1 hour prior to the prelims for best bet, giving the best bet for each and every fight on the card. And as always, going to be going through these fights from a betting perspective and a betting perspective only. If you do want a further, more in-depth breakdown, go check out the full card breakdown and prediction video I did post on, I think it was Tuesday. So I say we get into it, and we'll start with the first fight of the night. The bout order might be a little off here, but we'll go with it. We have Carlos Mata going against Cody Durden. Looks like Mota opened up as a plus 125 underdog. I saw some people get on that. That moved very quickly, and then he went all the way up to like minus 180. He's now down to like minus 160. I would not be paying minus 160 here for Mota. I am picking him to win, but I feel like we're sleeping on Cody Durden a little bit. I feel like he can make this very competitive. The spot that stuck out to me was going to be violence. I was hoping to get plus money on that fight doesn't go to decision. That is definitely not the case. The fight doesn't go minus 170 for a flyweight fight. You're definitely having to lay it here for some violence. And I'm honestly not too confident in that. So this is a fight where I'm going to sit back and pass. I'm glad to see Mota in the UFC. I think, rightfully deserved to be in this spot, short notice or not. And I will say he wins this fight, but as far as laying minus 160 on him, I think it could play out a little bit more competitive than that. So on the first fight of the night, I'll be passing. Nothing's really sticking out for me. Next, we have Christian Rodriguez going against Joshua Weems, and there is a bet that I have here. I have 1 unit on Christian Rodriguez to win. Inside the distance, got it at plus 106 for 1 unit. It is still out there at plus 100 on DraftKings Sportsbook, which, quite frankly, kind of shocks me. We have the biggest favorite on the card here in Christian Rodriguez at minus 405 on some books, minus 400. And his inside the distance line is just sitting there still at plus money, which is weird because the guy has finished all but one of his wins. And you take a look at Joshua Weems in both of his losses, he's been knocked out. Weems, we saw him on the Contender Series against Fernie Garcia, and he got knocked out in the first round, which is that's a big red flag to me. Fernie Garcia, he's not a knockout threat. That was Fernie Garcia's first ever knockout came against Joshua Weems here. I think it's a very tough matchup for Joshua Weems, short notice or not. Weems is going to be looking to get this fight down to the mat. I don't think he's going to be able to. I think he's going to be forced to strike with Christian Rodriguez, and Rodriguez is a guy you don't want to fight on short notice. He pushes a pace. He is nonstop with the volume, nonstop with the pressure, and I think he breaks Weems as the fight goes on and gives him his 3rd knockout loss. So do you want to lay minus 405 on Christian Rodriguez? Not really, but for a guy that's finished all but one of his wins, going against a guy that's been finished in all of his losses, I think the plus money on inside the distance is the way to go if you're playing this fight. Also was looking at some violence here. Weems is a kill or be killed fighter. He's been to decision only once in his entire career. But they're all over it, like minus 230. I see for the fight doesn't go. Minus 175 ain't bad, but I do expect violence in this fight here. Moving on, Phil Haas going against Roman Dolidze. Phil Haas is just a guy that I just can't put my money on. And there's like a couple guys on this card where you're like, you can't put your money on guys like Khalil Roundtree, guys like Jared Vandera, guys like, who else? Phil Haas, and even Roman Dolidze. You really can't put your money on this guy. I mean, this is one of those sketchy fights on the card where I feel like Phil Haas is the much better fighter. I feel like he's a phenomenal fighter. There's just one thing I don't like about Phil Haas, and that's the durability of the chin, and that's a concern against a guy in Roman Dolidze who can hit very hard. So There's no way I can lay this price tag on Phil Hawes at minus 170, although I feel like he could very well look minus 170 here, but it only takes one big shot from Roman Dolidze. Some spots I kind of considered were like the decision only for Phil Hawes, or like the finish only for Roman Dolidze, but it's a fight I'm just content just staying away from. Both guys just really untrustworthy, honestly, and yeah, it's going to be a pass for me, but I'll pick Phil Hawes to win by decision, but Roman Dolidze is going to be live for a finish just because Phil Hawes, he's not durable. All right, Jung Young Park going against Joseph Holmes, a fight where I just have no interest in it as well. I feel like the finish only for Holmes could be something to look at. Park, 4 wins in the UFC, none of them coming inside the distance, including 1 win against John Phillips. Huge red flag that he was not able to finish John Phillips. Joseph Holmes, a 100% finish rate, highest finish rate on the card. Looked at that line, it's like plus 120. I saw like a plus 140 somewhere. I think it might have been FanDuel or something, but I don't know. Another fight where I'm like, I don't really want to touch this fight. I think Park as a favorite makes a ton of sense. He's fought the much better competition. But I feel like it could play out kind of close. So, I don't know. Give me Park for the win. Park by decision. I didn't mind like the Park third round or decision as well, but another fight where I don't have much interest from a betting perspective. Next, we have Steve Garcia going against Chase Hooper. I do have a bet here. I have a half unit shot on Hooper to win inside the distance at plus 100. That line has moved ever so slightly. It's still like minus 105, minus 110. Again, for a guy that's minus 310 in a fight, and you got to think if Chase Hooper is having success in this fight, if he's winning this fight, he's getting it down to the mat. And if he's getting it down to the mat, he's more than likely going to finish the fight. Steve Garcia, I question his durability. He's been finished twice, once by sub, once by knockout. I feel like Chase Hooper is very live for a TKO on the mat. We saw in his last fight, he went all out with the ground and pound, the scrambles, the pressure, the pace. And I feel like he very well, if he wins this fight, it's a good chance it's not inside the distance. So instead of laying minus 310 on Chase Hooper, which I would never do, getting him around even money for the finish prop is something I don't hate. From a moneyline standpoint, it is probably dog or pass because, again, how can you trust Chase Hooper, who is still growing in the sport, who's still working on that striking, on that wrestling? But I think he did turn a little bit of a corner in his last fight. So I'll take Chase Hooper inside the distance, half a unit, plus 100 there, and I think he finishes Steve Garcia. I'm leaning like a TKO, but a sub's definitely in play as well. Marcos Rogerio de Lima going against Andrei Arlovski. I do have a bet here. I have 1 unit on the under 2.5 rounds at plus 136. Another line that just doesn't make sense to me. And sure, this could potentially go to decision, but we have a guy in Marcos Rogerio de Lima who's minus 250, minus 275. And if he's winning the fight, he's knocking out Arlovski. Is he going to go out there and win a decision against Andrei Arlovski? I mean, he could, but you got to think if Marcos Rogerio de Lima is having success, it's in the first round, and it's probably a first-round finish. I believe he has 8 wins in the UFC, 6 of those coming in the first round, 5 of those coming by first-round knockout, and Arlovski has been knocked out a lot. He's been knocked out 11 times. He hasn't really been knocked out a lot recently, but I think that's because he's not fighting guys with a lot of power. Jake Collier, not a lot of power. Tanner Bozer, not a lot of power. Guys like that, Jared Vandera, not a lot of power for the heavyweight division. Marcos Rogerio de Lima has a lot of power, and we saw that against Ben Rothwell, going out there and being the first one to knock out Ben Rothwell since 2009. So, yeah, I think de Lima knocks out Arlovski here in the first round. If this does get extended, I think it's going to be very interesting. Oftentimes we have seen de Lima kind of fall off a cliff after that first round, but I do think de Lima gets him out of there in the first round. So I like the under 2.5. I like the fight doesn't go to decision. I even don't mind the under 1.5. I don't mind the Rogerio by knockout in the first round, but I personally did take that 2.5, get that extra round there, and I have 1 unit on it at plus 136, and the line is about around there right now, like plus 128. All right, moving on, we got Josh Fremd going against Tresean Gore. I do have a bet here as well. I have 1 unit on the under 2.5 rounds, minus 122 there. So yeah, I like violence. I think somebody's getting finished here. Just the styles of both guys. Josh Fremd, very well-rounded guy, has some submissions on his record. But what kind of impressed me the most with Josh Fremd was the guy's power. The guy is vicious. I've seen him hurt some dudes, and I've seen him put out some dudes, and those dudes were not getting up for minutes. I mean, he hurts people bad. This guy has very underrated power. So I think the submission ability is there for Fremd, and I think the knockout ability is there. And you got to take a look at it this way. If Cody Brundage, who is like a wrestler, is going out there there and knocking out Gore, why can't somebody as big and as powerful as Josh Fremd do the same thing? And by the way, these guys train with each other. Brundage and Fremd train with each other. So I could see Fremd going out there and knocking out Gore. The reason why I can't touch this money line on Fremd, and it's tempting, but I feel like it's a trap. Minus 145 for Josh Fremd. Everybody wants to fade Tresean Gore. He's looked like crap in the UFC. Everybody's off the Tresean Gore hype train. But Josh Fremd does leave some openings to be hit. I don't like his striking defense, and that is why I did not pull the trigger on his money line. And that's why I kind of like violence here, because I think if Fremd wins, it could potentially be a submission. It could be a knockout. But if Gore wins, it's going to be by knockout. Gore does have very good power. And again, Fremd is very hittable, and that is a concern against a guy like Tresean Gore. So just give me violence here. Don't really want to bet aside. Give me the under 2.5, 1 unit at minus 122. All right, next we have probably the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week. And it seems to be like the most talked about fight of the week, which is freaking weird. But we have Waldo Cortez Acosta going against Jared Vanderaa. Acosta minus 195, Vanderaa plus 165. I'm not touching this fight. I'm not even thinking about touching this fight. Vanderaa has a path to victory, but I mean, he went out against Chase Sherman and showed that he has zero fight IQ. And even in the Oleinik fight, he had zero fight IQ. He grappled with Oleinik willingly, but he didn't willingly grapple with Chase Sherman. Like what is going on with Jared Vanderaa? He's on a 4-fight skid. And I will say this: if Jared Vanderaa comes in here with a good game plan, he moved camps, which is good. If he comes in here with a good game plan and takes his fight down to the mat, he's going to win this fight. His ground and pound is very good. He's a black belt in BJJ, supposedly. And Waldo Cortez Acosta, his takedown defense is bad. So, yeah, Vanderaa can get on top. He wins the fight. It's just, how are you going to trust somebody in Vanderaa who shot 0 takedowns against Sherman and shot 0 takedowns in his entire UFC career? So, yeah, I'm going with Acosta for the win, but I want nothing to do with this fight. I was thinking the over 1.5 rounds, and that's a very popular play, and I get why 100%, but I just don't want any money on this fight. It's simple as that. I mean, sketchy fight. I will not be putting a dollar on this fight, but give me Acosta to win. I'll say like second round knockout, but I'm not betting it and not even thinking about betting it. All right, moving on, we have Dustin Jacoby going against Khalil Roundtree. And I'm not betting this fight as well. I learned a long time ago to not bet on Khalil Roundtree fights. I mean, it's just, it never works out, ever. Sometimes Khalil Roundtree shows up, the guy looks like a complete killer. Going out there, destroying Eric Andrews, knocking him down 4 times, going out there and, destroying the leg of Modestas Bukauskas, going out there and just starching Carl Roberson, just vicious knockouts from this guy. And then sometimes he shows up and craps the bed, like against Marcin Prachnio. And I remember being super high on the under 1.5 rounds there, thinking, Prachnio's been knocked out 4 times all in the first round. Why can't a killer in Roundtree go out there and knock this guy? And I think that was like after the Andrews fight as well. So I'm like, yeah, why can't Roundtree go out there and knock this guy out? But he lost a decision against Pratt. I mean, this guy's unpredictable. Calling his fights, betting on his fights, predicting his fight. It's nearly impossible to do. So, I don't know. I'm not touching this fight at all. I mean, I'm going to pick Roundtree. I think he's very live for the upset just because he's so dangerous. But if this does go to decision, Jacoby should be able to be the minute winner here. But I'll take Roundtree for the upset. But there's no way I'm betting this guy or betting this fight in general. And there's no way I'm laying minus 175 on Jacoby. I mean, if Roundtree shows up and he looks good and he looks dangerous like he did in the Roberson-Andrews fight and the Bukauskas fight, Roundtree's super live. So the dog money is kind of tempting, but at the same time, if I bet it, I'd be so disappointed in myself by the end of the night, betting on a Khalil Roundtree fight. It's one of those guys where you don't want to have money on his fights, or you'll just be upset at the end of the night. Kind of like Trevin Giles. I mean, betting on his fights is a disaster each time as well. So another fight where sketchy fight, I'm content to pass. Tim Means going against Max Griffin, and I like Max Griffin here. I don't know if I like the money line though, because minus 180 is a little bit up there. I feel like this fight could play out close if there's no finish, but I personally think the finish is very live here for Max Griffin. The reason being is Tim Means, now 38 years old, almost 39. Tim Means, has taken a ton of damage throughout his career. The guy has 46 professional fights. Max Griffin only 27. So although Max Griffin is not much younger, I think Max Griffin's 36, 37, He's still taking a lot less damage than one Tim Means, and you can finally, start see the damage add up on Tim Means. I mean, he's not reacting to shots well. I did not like how he was reacting to shots against Daniel Rodriguez, who, don't get me wrong, Rodriguez is an awesome fighter. He's not a power puncher. He's not a one-punch power guy. He's a volume guy, and he hurt Means bad at the end of the first round, and then kind of club and subbed him in the second. Same thing with Kevin Holland. Holland hurt him bad in the first round, and then club and sub in the second. Max Griffin is a guy with power. He's always had solid power, but it's weird, like now at 36 years old with Max Griffin, the power is finally starting to translate, and this is like the best version of Max Griffin we've seen. I know he lost to Neil Magny in his last fight, but he dropped Neil Magny bad, almost finished him. He dropped Carlos Condit bad, almost finished him. He finished Song Kanan as well. He finished Ramiz Brahimaj. I mean, this guy is going out there and landing hard as of late, and I just don't know if Tim Means is going to be able to take those shots. So the way I'm playing this is the scorecards, no action, aka the finish only, aka on FanDuel they have the decision no bet, but the best price out there is on BetOnline. They have the minus 180 for the Griffin scorecards equals no action, and I like that because we have two guys who are decent finishers, but one guy is next level durable, and that is Max Griffin, 9 losses, 8 by decision. And then we have one guy in Tim Means who I just really, really question the durability. And like I said, if this does go to decision, I think it could play close. But if there's a finish in this fight, I do trust the durability of Max Griffin in this one. So give me the Max Griffin decision, or the scorecards, no action, the finish only, 1.5 units at minus 180 is kind of how I'm looking at this co-main event. And then we have the main event, Arnold Allen going against Calvin Kattar. We have it about a pick'em. These price tags have been like fluctuating all week. At one point, Kattar was the favorite, then Allen was the favorite. Now we're back at a pick'em, and I do expect it to kind of stay around a pick'em. I was able to get on Calvin Kattar at plus 102. I missed the plus 110, but got in at plus 102 for half a unit. The reason being is there's some question marks on the Allen side. Arnold Allen never seen a 4th round, never seen a 5th round, whereas with Kattar, he has seen a 4th and 5th round several times. He's actually went the distance in a 5-round fight his last 4 times. Arnold Allen, I've seen him slow down bad in a 3-round fight against Sodiq Yusuff. I mean, he looked awful in that 3rd round, landing only 2 significant strikes in that 3rd round against Yusuff. I mean, I want to see Allen in a 4th and a 5th round. Another thing is I just don't know if Allen's going to be able to compete with the volume of Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, some of the best volume in the division, whereas Arnold Allen, very low volume, very low on the numbers. And Arnold Allen does have good power. He showed that off in the Dan Hooker fight, the Yusuff fight. But is he knocking out Calvin Kattar? Is he knocking down Calvin Kattar? I'm not so sure about that. Nobody's been able to do so. So I think Arnold Allen, at least early on, could very well have some success, and maybe it's a good live betting opportunity for Kattar here. But as the fight goes on, I just really trust the durability, the volume, the experience, the 5-round experience of Calvin Kattar more. And at plus money, I'm willing to take a shot. But I know Arnold Allen's a very popular play this week, very popular dog, or he was a very popular dog before money started coming in on him. But I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Calvin Kattar here, half a unit, plus 102. Just trusting the experience, the durability, and that 5-round experience as well. So give me Calvin Kattar. And yeah, guys, that is it. Again, a sketchy card. I would tread lightly on a lot of these matchups. A lot of untrustworthy fighters and a lot of untrustworthy fights to be laying a lot of money on. My only straight bet of the night is a dog shot on Calvin Kattar plus 102, half a unit. I have the scorecards no action on Max Griffin minus 180, 1.5 units. I have the under 2.5 rounds, Tresean Gore, Josh Fremd, 1 unit minus 122. I have 1 unit on the under 2.5 rounds in the Arlovsky DeLima fight, plus 136. I have Christian Rodriguez inside the distance, 1 unit plus 106. And then Chase Hooper inside the distance, half a unit, plus 100. That is my action. Going to keep it light, keep it short and sweet, hoping for some violence. And yeah, should be a fun card from a fan perspective. But like I said, from a betting perspective, it's not my favorite card in the world. Leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. You can check me out on Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the numbers. And yeah, come check me out for best bet in 1 hour prior to the prelims. The prelims start at 4 Eastern, I think. So I'll be going live at 3 Eastern. Best of luck, guys. UFC Vegas 63. Let us make some money. See you guys.